Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. I'd like to introduce you to Aggie. Yep, that's a bandsaw. It's an Agazzani, 2002. Long story. When you're looking for new tools, I'm a firm believer first to look at old tools, look at used tools, and then you need to have a trained eye for when a tool is in good condition or was abused, and one of the key indicators is rust. I have been looking since the storm of last year. It's almost a year now since we lost a lot of my tools and everything to the storm. And I don't have much money to replace tools. But I went out on faith. Sometimes you need to have faith. This was listed locally. I went to look at it, and I made a deal with the gentleman. He was at that point in his life where his age and his life goals were not surrounded by the shop or in the shop. So he was parting with tools. I needed a bandsaw, plain and simple. Excuse me. Salud. So when I was looking at saws, I saw some that were not even worth the cost to take the steel to the scrapyard. And I drove probably 400 miles round trip looking at saws for a period of a year. And I had gotten this close to ordering one. I spoke with several of the manufacturers, and I had settled on a saw and still couldn't pull the trigger. Well, along comes Aggie. 18-inch cast iron flywheels, cast iron trunnion system, cast iron table, and a 12-inch rip capacity for less money than a 14-inch brand new saw. Okay, it's a 2002. Okay, parts are no longer available for the most part. But if it's a bearing you need, bearings are usually available. If it's a guide, guides are available. If you need a part machined, you go to a machine shop, you can make a part. As long as your castings are all good and the frame is not bent, there's not much can go wrong. Some of you may have seen the nickel test I did. I put a nickel on the table and ran this saw, and the nickel stayed straight. No vibration. It's quiet. I do need a bigger vacuum system or dust collection system for it. I'm using my shop vac, which not perfect, not optimum. But I've been cutting some white oak, and it went through 4.5 inches of white oak like it's butter. So it's a 220 single phase. Close to 2 kW, so that's about a 2.5 horsepower. And I even gunked up one blade. This was a sharp blade, and I got it all gunked up. So I need to soak this now. Pro tip, don't use chemicals. Go in the house. Go by the washing machine You know that white powder that you put in the laundry? Soak your blades in that. Yeah, laundry detergent. I use it for bandsaw blades and I use it for circular saw blades. And it never once has caused any rust. I've done that for 47 years. The reason why is most laundry detergent or laundry compounds have rust inhibitors in there, so they don't rust out your wash machine. At least the quality ones do. So this will get soaked and this will go back on. One of the ways to tell if your bandsaw blades are sharp is if you touch them and they are a little grabby to your fingers. Just a little grabby. This one is starting to dull, but it's still grabby. This one that's on the machine will be temporary while this one soaking is not as grabby. I have a new one, just came in today, and it's from my good friends at Timberwolf, Suffolk Machinery on Long Island, New York. If you call Timberwolf, tell them that Dusty Splinters sent you, or Walter. I purchased a blade from them for this machine. I only bought one because I want to test the length. I have the manual that kind of says it's 149 inches, but I want verification. So I ordered one 149 inch and in a tooth pattern for cutting green wet wood. So Suffolk Machinery, Timberwolf blades. Now, why a bandsaw? Well, my first saw was a table saw. Why? Well, in the workshop I was apprenticing, we used table saws for most of the cabinet work. And my neighbor was selling a table saw when her husband passed away. That's the only reason I had a table saw first. If, however, I had read James Krenov's book, and I'll leave the links to the book down below, he talks about how the bandsaw is the heart of the woodworking shop when you're working with hand tools. So if you're using planes and other smaller saws for trimming and miters and such, then the bandsaw is what you would use to break down larger pieces of wood. You can make veneers, you can do mortise and tenon, not mortise, you can use it to cut the cheeks of the tenons, the shoulders, the haunches. But he was very much in belief that the bandsaw was the first and possibly the only power tool you needed. When you're making wooden hand planes and you start with a large block of wood, you're going to cut the two outer cheeks off. That's done with a bandsaw. If you do it with a table saw, the kerf is 1/8 of an inch. If you do it with a bandsaw, the kerf is less than 1/16. And you can even go finer with specialty blades. So, I have sort of regressed back to using more and more hand tools, so the bandsaw to me right now is the most important tool. Also, because I can take larger blocks of wood, cut them into smaller blocks of wood, and make them available for purchase to people who turn pens or bottle toppers or you name it. But at least it allows me to convert stock. Also, for cutting round blanks. Now this happens to be end grain cherry. And I will at some point turn this into an Asian inspired bowl. So that's another reason. So it's a money-making machine. You can take stock and break it down. You can take a log and break it down. However, if you're working with predominantly square flat stock, you can cut it on the bandsaw. And for the most part, it's a safe tool. You keep your fingers away, everything tuned and tensioned. If this is resting firmly on the table, there is almost a zero likelihood that this will ever jump back out and kick back into you. However, if you're cutting logs, let's say, it needs to rest in a cradle to prevent it from rolling. If you're cross-cutting round stock, even dowels, needs to rest in a cradle so it doesn't roll. I have had the blades grab this piece, spin it, lock into the wood, and kink and snap and bing, bang, boom, you're done. So round stock has special needs when it comes to cutting it on a bandsaw. Okay? This was cut standing up like this. So this was just basically a bowl blank, albeit long grain, which that's a whole nother story we can talk about. Remember, clean your blades in laundry detergent. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section down below. I want to thank you for stopping by today, and if this is your first time here and you found this helpful, give it the old thumbs up and subscribe. Come back for more. We'll do some more talk and some more demonstrations. I'll power it up before we leave. There's one little thing I have to fix, and I think it's either replace the belt or tension it a little differently because I get a little bit of a squeal. Hey, listen, head out to your shop. Go make some shavings, sawdust, something. Walter out. There we go. Just got to get rid of old Squeaky in there. Walter out.